Merry Christmas, everybody. From our house to your house. It may be 80 degrees outside, but it is still Christmas inside. Hi, and welcome to Anne-Marie's Workshop. My name is Anne-Marie, and I like to make things. If you like to make things, please like, subscribe, and share. So this is kind of an impromptu video. I have been working on this pattern, Megan Nielson's Hovea jacket and coat. My daughter bought this unbelievable fabric, right? And she wanted to make this short jacket. It also comes in a long jacket, but she had enough fabric to make both. So I've already made the short jacket, and I will show you that here. And I thought you might want to do a little walk along with me as I make the longer jacket. There are some things that I've learned because I made the first jacket that I think will make construction easier. Construction is not particularly hard on this jacket. It's a very easy jacket to sew. It's a very easy jacket to make. It's counting on you to either have used quilted material or make your own quilted material. I believe she bought this from Closet Core. I'm not sure. I will verify it, include it in the description box, but it is quite substantial. Now, what I did learn is I constructed the whole jacket and then went back with my it counts heavily on bias tape. But I will include a link to my friend Mari from Mari Sews Curves, and I'll insert a card here for you to see how to make your own bias tape. I got quite a bit of bias tape for this pattern. Anyway, so what I discovered was that after I sewed it, of course you're going to go over the edges with your bias tape, but I am going to construct this coat the second time, the longer length, and this time I'm going to add the bias tape to each individual piece except for the cuffs and around the neck at the beginning. So therefore it'll be easier to manage. Come along. Now, first things first, this is an easy cut. There are only 4 pattern pieces. There's the front, right? There's piece number 9, which is the back, and it's cut on the fold. There's the sleeve that you saw me working with. And there is the pocket. Now, honestly, the most trouble I've had is matching, because as you can see, zigzags, and so it's basically, you can kind of see it as a stripe material. So it took me a little while to make sure I matched up my pieces. I did that by cutting them on the fold, cutting them. It was a 60-inch wide fabric, so I was able to go along and cut the back on the fold and trace, have the underarm points meet on the pattern, on the fabric, the tissue pieces meet, and then continue on. And when I made the coat, it was seamless. It was very easy to do matching. But that was the only challenge of this pattern and making the bias tape, because you use quite a bit of it. Now, how I'm going to apply my bias tape is I am going to stitch the back side of my fabric to the front of my bias tape. So you see this suede type is touching the back. And I'm going to stitch just a pressure foot length away, and I'm going to fold it over to the front and then stitch it in place. So I'll show you how that looks. Okay, I hope you can see that I have stitched the right side of my bias, which is, you know, I have suede on one side and shiny on the other, to the wrong side of my fabric. So it's going to wrap over, and I'm going to fold and stitch it in place on the right side of my fabric. Now remember, this is not along the seam line that it takes to attach the sleeve to the body of the garment. This is on the edge, because in order to reduce bulk and to make it easily to manage covering these seams that you see how they ravel, they have to be contained. And I'm using bias, even though you could serge, but it just gives a really custom finish look to the inside of the garment. Okay, I'm gonna stitch this in place and then show you. All right, so I stitched this to the very edge. I'm still gonna go 5/8 in order to stitch the sleeve to the body. But doing this separate saves on all the bulk that ends up in the inside of the garment if you stitch everything in place and then cover everything with bias tape. So I'm gonna try it this way this time. Now I'm gonna do this process to my to the top of my sleeves, to the sides of my sleeves, to the top of my front and back pieces of the garment, and the sides. Okay, so it's a little tedious, but it's in your best interest to put your binding on all the individual pieces so that it's not bulky when you join all of your pieces. There's only 4 pieces. All right, now we're ready to stitch things together. So we are going to turn our pocket. This is version E, it's the long coat. So we're going to turn our pocket upside down, match up our pattern, and stitch 1/8 of an inch across the bottom of the pocket, because we're going to turn it upside down and put it in place. Okay, so I attached the front to the back at the shoulders. See how much easier it is when the seam allowances are encased. It lies flat. But something I discovered was I forgot to do the inside shoulder seam. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the binding on that, attach the sleeves, and then stitch up the sides, and we'll get ready to put the binding around the edge of the jacket. Oh, and the cuffs too. Now by this stage of the game, my coat is becoming a little heavy, so make sure that you either have a banquet table or you have a lot more space in which to rest the coat, so make it easier for you to sew it. I know my old-time sewers know this, but just in case you're watching this for the first time. Now I've sewed all of the coat together. Sleeves are on and the seams are bound. Shoulders are bound. Only thing left to do now is to go all the way around the edge with this ultra suede binding. Then I will measure it on her one more time before I make the cuffs. All right, so I have put my binding all the way around the edge of this coat. So now I need to try it on my daughter and verify that the cuff length that I made with my muslin, that it works. If it needs to be a little shorter, a little longer, well, a little longer, we're out of luck, but a little shorter. Anyway, so now this project, while it only had 4 pieces, it did have some labor-intensive things. Attaching this rather thick bias binding, matching the stripes, the zigzags, very Miss Sony looking, isn't it? And I did make a muslin for this pattern. I did make a muslin for this pattern to judge the difference between the size 18 that I made it in. My daughter's smaller on top, wider hips, she's a pear shape, and so making the muslin was essential, especially because of the weight of this fabric and how expensive it was. I didn't want to just take a chance. So I did make a muslin. I did take my time and make specific bias binding that would work with this jacket. And there was the extra labor of matching the stripes, especially with the pocket, y'all. But I think it was worth it. This is not my coat, but ooh, it could be. But I live in Jamaica. I don't need this coat. I guess I'll give it to my daughter since it's her coat anyway. But pockets, very cozy. This is the coat. I'll be back with the jacket. This is the jacket. Right? Isn't it cute? The fabric is fabulous. Fabulous. All right. Once again, this is Megan Nielsen's Hovea jacket. This is the one I worked on. Haven't worked on this one yet, maybe on the next trip. But I know my daughter is going to be taking this with her to Germany. I think she's taking the coat, but I think it's beautiful. I still have leftover, she still has leftover material, but not enough to make, but maybe a carpet bag or something like that. All right, thank you for following along. This is a little bonus during Vlogmas. I only have 2 more days in her lovely studio, but luckily I was able to get into this. It's her birthday, so I wanted her to have the coat and the jacket. All right, I hope you like it.